You're watching Next Pitch, the student-athlete playbook for parents raising tomorrow's athletes.
Welcome in. Anthony Leverage here with Dusty Hara. It is your Weekly Sports D&A. Dusty, welcome in, man. We got a ton to talk about today.
Boy, there's a lot.
This might be our longest episode of all time here. But first of all, you have a good weekend. Did you avoid floating away with the what's the term we now use? The atmospheric river that settles in over us. I hate it, but I love the term.
It's a great term, but at the same time, I don't, it's just rain here. I mean, when the atmospheric river happens every time it rains in Portland, then I'm just over it. All it is rain.
Rain.
That's it.
Lots of rain. When you can't tell if it's raining from the sky or the ground, you know you're in it's a good time here.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's dive right in. We've got lots of stuff to talk about, and obviously we're going to start with college football. What is your first take on the bracket? We'll talk about the ones that didn't get in, but what was the first thing, and maybe this is the first thing to you that jumped out at you when those 12 teams were released?
I think that the playoffs look a lot different than they did a year ago, obviously. And in the correction that was made was last year, it was about the top end of the bracket in the top four seeds and which teams got buys being the four highest ranked conference champions. And people are all upset over that. This year, they have corrected that where it is rightfully so. The four best teams in college football all got a bye. Now everybody's looking at the back end of it. And there's legitimate conversation there as to why the back end of the bracket looks the way it does. And there was drama, obviously, at the end of it where the playoff committee puts two group of six teams in James Madison and Tulane and leaves out a couple of blue bloods in Notre Dame and Texas. And the people that are upset about that, sure, I get it. Everybody's upset that your team gets out. But the reality of it is that a lot of these teams ahead of them, they did exactly what they needed to do to get into the playoff. But I think my initial takeaway, and I know we're going to get to a lot of it, my initial takeaway was they corrected the front end of the bracket, the back end of it. It's an imperfect system, but it's better than anything we've had before.
Yeah, and if they had 16 teams in, we'd be talking about 17 and 18 today, right?
Exactly.
But it sounds like, before we get into the who's in, who's not, whys, it sounds like there's another correction coming next year that will maybe address some of the stuff that happened this year. So it's as typical with anything that the NCAA is a part of. It's not immediate fix.
Yeah.
It is a slow burn. Is there some correction coming in the future?
Yeah, I no doubt about it. I think that there's going to be correction that is going to be made. And this is the thing that I like about this model as opposed to iterations in the past, is that we were locked into like a decade of a 2-team BCS. We were locked into 8 years of the 4-team playoff without really any wiggle room for adjustment. At least there's this openness to try and find the best model moving forward. And it's not going to work for everybody every year. And it didn't work for Oregon last year. Hell, they had to play the best team in college football in their very first playoff game last year because of the way that everything was seeded through. So it's not going to be perfect. And the changes are going to have to happen. But the reality is that everything that everybody said would be wrong with college football is not the case. The regular season, we learned week 1 means a hell of a lot.
That's right.
Still,
Great point, man.
regular season matters a ton. Now, where there's flaws in it is that the wiggle room for teams to improve as the season goes on is still not there. And that's the imperfect part of this system that we have. And Notre Dame got left out, and they got jumped in a week where they did not play. And that's not good for Notre Dame fans.
No.
And they should be upset because they're fans, right? And they should be mad about the fact, hey, what did we do? We didn't do anything. Alabama went and got their ass kicked. Well, one thing that the committee has told us, and they have stayed true to that, is that playing in a conference championship game will not negatively impact you in your playoff. Will it impact your seeding? Yes, it will, but it will not kick you out of the playoff. And I think that that is fair and that is the right thing to do. Where the problem is that they have the 5 highest ranked conference champions will get a seat at the table. And in doing that, that allowed the Sun Belt champ and the American champ into the college football playoff because they are conference champions. That's an imperfect system. Those two teams are not two of the top 12 teams in the country, and everybody knows it. Notre Dame is one of the top 12 teams in the country. I believe Texas is one of the top 12 teams in the country. That is an imperfect system, but it's the one we have, and it's better than what we've had before.
So before we get into just those teams that you mentioned, is the NCAA in charge of this still, or is
No.
do the presidents, the ADs, and the committee have autonomy to make changes? Because the NCAA is the slowest moving organization literally on the planet. When I was in 2011, here's just an example. The scholarship hadn't changed in 40 years. You couldn't provide a guy a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but you could give him bread, jam, and peanuts in a peanut grinder to make his own peanut butter, and then you could feed him that. This is for 40 years. So expecting them to make a change. So you're saying, and I should know this, but the committee, the presidents, the ADs have autonomy to make these changes without having to go through that old organization.
And this has been the case since the BCS. The NCAA didn't run the BCS either, but they locked into contracts that were far too long and they didn't have enough wiggle room. Now it's run wholly by the College Football Playoff Committee. They are not all that different from the NCAA because it is the same people that run the NCAA, essentially that do it. But at the same time, they do have the autonomy to change and have a little bit of it's malleable now. Well, 2026 is a big year though, because they need to lock in the future of it. Does that look like and this is where it's going to get ugly and the red tape's going to start going up left and right, is that the Big Ten wants a 24 team playoff. The SEC wants a 16-team playoff. There's nobody can agree on anything. And those two power brokers are going to be the ones that determine how many teams get in the future. I think what everybody can agree on, though, is that the playoff will expand. What that looks like, we don't know yet, but the playoff will expand.
So we'll preview the games a little bit deeper next week when we get a little bit closer to them. But let's talk about the not getting in here. So what I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that Notre Dame was ahead of Miami because there was a team between Notre Dame and Miami. Mm-hmm. And then once Miami jumped that other team due to a loss, there was the ability then to measure them closer together, and the head-to-head mattered. First of all, that made my head explode when I read that. Why you have to be ahead of a team to measure them, and I kind of get it. But is that what happened? Did I read that correctly?
Yeah. Yes. And it's convoluted, but they put the teams into pods that they compare each other to. Okay. And this is the big thing that everybody needs to know is that the playoff, the committee, what they do is everything before Selection Sunday is posturing.
Yeah,
so that's what it is.
It's TV.
And here's what happened, and they're not going to say it, but I mean, we can all say it because we're looking at it, right? The justification was the eye test told the committee that Notre Dame was better than BYU in Miami. They had to put BYU ahead of Miami because they were a one-loss team and had an opportunity to get into the playoff. Okay, that's the posturing part. Then when BYU loses
in the previous poll
ranking, yep. Then when BYU loses in the conference championship game, they can then say, all right, let's just compare Notre Dame and Miami head to head right now. And this is the wiggle room, right? It wasn't just BYU losing either. And this is where Notre Dame fans, sure, you can be upset. Whether the committee ever wants to admit it or not, they wanted the ACC to get in because it's a big cash cow and they are a Power 4 conference.
I just don't know how you can have a team from that league, and you and I have bashed them enough this year. Yeah. So, but with the conference champion that has 5 losses.
Yes. But this goes down to the ACC's tiebreaker is an absolute disaster because they very easily, because Miami was part of this tie-breaking scenario. Miami is the best team in the ACC. We know it.
Yeah.
It's not close.
No.
Miami is the best team in the ACC. Have they stubbed their toe? Absolutely, they have. They did it twice. And Notre Dame has rattled off 10 straight wins, but they lost twice at the very beginning of the year, and one of them being to Miami. The committee cannot say part of their criteria is head-to-head and then throw that out the door when you have two teams right next to each other where their strength of record, their strength of schedule are all within one, which are also main criterias, and then say, all right, the head-to-head, no, screw it, we're going to put Notre Dame in still. The head-to-head has to matter.
I actually like that. I mean, it has to count for something, right? It has to count for more than something. You beat the team that you have the same record as. That has to matter. The fact that it was week 1 is what makes that difficult.
Yeah, and teams get better over time. I go back to Stanford with Jim Harbaugh and Andrew Luck. That team that won the Orange Bowl, that to me was one of the two best teams in college football, and they didn't get a chance to play in the national championship game because they lost.
Yeah.
Okay. Their loss was in like September, I think. Teams get better over time. You find your identity. You become cohesive. That's exactly what Notre Dame did. And I do believe that they are a great football team. They are one of the, in my opinion, I think they're one of the 10 best teams in college football.
And they have the brand. So it's pretty ballsy by the committee to keep them out.
But they lost that head-to-head with the team that they were directly compared to. And the two best teams that they played this year, they lost those games to, which is Miami and Texas A&M. That's no fault of their own because that was at the very beginning of the year. But at the same time, this is where you go, playing in a conference, kind of important.
Yeah, it is.
And Notre Dame is on that hill of we don't need to join a conference. And this is the part that really upsets me about the way that Notre Dame is handling this, is that I don't like the fact that they just took their ball and went home with declining a bowl opportunity. And it's not because of and a lot of people are just looking at it as, well, we didn't make the playoff, we don't want to play. That's why I don't like that. That whatever, you can have that opinion. They did that. Why I don't like it is because when the Notre Dame seniors put that uniform on in the last regular season game, they didn't think that was going to be the last time they were ever going to play.
Yeah.
There is something to it.
Yeah.
Anybody who has ever been an athlete, you remember the very last game. It doesn't matter if it's high school. It doesn't matter if it's small college, major college football. You remember the last time you put that uniform on. That's why I hate that. Yeah. I hate that for every player that is going to be the last down they ever played for Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is sitting there saying, we're a proud institution. We have great, rich tradition. Yeah, you do. So I think you owe it to those seniors to go and play. I don't care if it's a damn Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Yeah.
You owe it to them to give them that opportunity to play. And they can say all that they want that, I don't know this, but they could say the players voted on it. I don't care. Those young men are going to have a realization somewhere down the line. I wish I had that one more chance.
Totally.
And that's what I don't like about it.
I agree with you. And it just throws more chaos into the system where people can pull out. And I don't think they're the only team that's done that. I think a couple other teams.
No, I think Kansas State and Iowa State both are, but they are different situations.
Coaching changes.
Yeah, Kansas State's, coach retired, and Chris Kleiman, Matt Campbell at Iowa State left for Penn State. Like those are different situations that I can see it because you don't have a direction. And
right.
If they're taking all those coaches with them, like that's a big problem.
Might not be able to practice.
Yeah. And because the coaches, and I don't like this about the world of college football. We talked about this last week. The calendar's got to make sense, right?
Yeah.
Where coaches can just pack up and leave. And for those staffs, especially the Iowa State one, they've got to go and get the ball rolling at Penn State because they only had 2 damn recruits in the recruiting cycle. They've got a lot to do and a lot of work to do. I don't like the fact that that's pulling them away from that last opportunity for a lot of those guys.
Yeah, it's pretty well said, man. So we'll preview the games next week, but as you look at the bracket, just kind of as a whole, what do you think of the paths for the top 4 seeds? Like, who do you think has the best path, or do you feel like it's just so open right now that anything could happen, and teams getting hot and playing well? At this time of year, you're either playing a really good team or you're playing a team that's playing really good. So like there's good football teams everywhere now. There's no bad teams left. But as you're looking at that bracket, what do you think of the paths for each one of those top teams?
I think that this iteration makes way more sense than last year did, as far as I think we're going to have far more competitive games in the opening round, with the exception of maybe Oregon James Madison and Ole Miss Tulane. Even though that Ole Miss Tulane game has a lot of intrigue because neither one of those teams has a head coach that's going to be there next year. Ole Miss's head coach won't be there.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And then John Summerall, he's leaving for Florida once Tulane season ends. So, I mean, that game is just bizarro world. Charlie Weiss Jr. is going to be calling the offense for Ole Miss. He's going to be leaving for he coaches at LSU. He got on that plane and got booed off the tarmac in Oxford when Lane Kiffin went to Baton Rouge because he was on that plane.
He's getting paid by Ole Miss to coach, by LSU to coach Ole Miss.
Yeah, and Lane Kiffin gets a bonus if Ole Miss wins.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Good for Lane Kiffin.
But if you look at it, the 1 seed in Indiana, they get the winner of Oklahoma and Alabama, which is going to be in Norman. It's a rematch of a game that happened earlier in the year where Oklahoma won by 2. Oklahoma is all defense, no offense. And you can take Alabama and you can just flip it, even though their offense looked pretty broken with the inability to run the ball against Georgia.
Georgia can do that to you, though.
I think that says a lot about how good Georgia is. But the winner of that game goes on to play Indiana, the 1 seed in the Rose Bowl. I think that'll be a competitive matchup no matter what. Indiana, with what they did in the conference championship game, man, they are so damn good defensively, and they don't get enough credit for how good they are defensively. Fernando Mendoza gets a bunch of the credit. Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr., they get a ton of the love for Indiana, but that defense is nasty, and they are so fundamentally sound. They gave Ohio State just problems left and right. And I like that the committee only bumped Ohio State down 1 spot.
Yeah, me too.
I think that because 2 and 3 are going to have to play each other no matter what. And that was a heavyweight fight.
Well, and I think that's when it's right to use the eye test, right? Like you obviously Indiana is better. So they're the 1 seed, but Ohio State is a really good football team, and moving them to 3 or 4 would not have made sense.
No, and this is the thing about that is that look at it this way. If that game was the national championship game and it was 13-10 and it played out the way that it did, wouldn't everybody be at the end of the year being like, damn, they got it right, man?
Yeah, they got the 2 best teams.
They got it right. So at that point, I go, yeah, just move Ohio State down 1 spot. And Ohio State now gets the winner of A&M in Miami.
Man, there's so many good games coming, man.
A&M Miami and College Station is going to be a great game.
It's so good for the game.
And so is the Cotton Bowl when they go and play Ohio State. The 3 seed Georgia, I think that the 3 seed in Georgia, they get the more favorable one because you get Tulane Ole Miss winner in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. And no matter what, think of that. No matter who wins that game, it's going to be rowdy in New Orleans because Tulane is in New Orleans. And then Ole Miss, you're meeting in the middle for a game of Ole Miss or I guess you have to cross over. Each one has to cross over a couple states, but it's close for Ole Miss to get there to New Orleans. Look, that's going to be a rowdy environment.
New Orleans is rowdy without football.
Yes,
you add that to the mix. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And by the way, no more need to Google Kurt Signetti, right? Like that guy, what he's done and I watched that entire game. They were the better football team. Yeah. And it wasn't not that it wasn't close, but they were the better football team. And that defense is, as you mentioned, those linebackers are unbelievable, and the ability to cover those receivers, and like it was clear that they're talented, but they are incredibly well coached.
And this is getting in the weeds here, but this is what they do that is really hard. And
I love the weeds. Let's get in the weeds.
From a schematic standpoint, we've heard a lot of, and especially when it comes to Oregon, right? Simulated pressure.
Yeah.
And what they do is simulated pressure, where they have their 4 down linemen, but they'll walk up 6 or 7 guys up to the line of scrimmage, and then they bail them out. And they'll bring 4 sometimes. Sometimes they bring 3, and they drop the other 4 back into coverage. Sometimes they'll bring all 7 or 6 of them. What that does is it makes it really hard for the quarterback to determine who's dropping to what spot and how the rotation is going to happen. But what people don't talk about is how incredibly difficult that is for the defense to do. Because when you are asking those guys to play that close to the line of scrimmage and then drop into their zone, their rotations have to be perfect. The safeties are asked to move half a field, which you think about that's 53 and a third is a football field. So you're asking these guys to move 27 yards
Covering
at
a
the
ton
snap
of ground
to get to the right spot, defend speed. And that's where I thought it was going to be really hard for them to defend Jeremiah Smith in Ohio State, because he runs that whole shot seam route really well.
Yeah.
They only connected on that one time.
Yeah.
Okay. That is really difficult to ask. The linebackers have to be incredibly athletic and fast, but they also have to be high football IQ guys that can read and react while moving that fast. What they ask that defense to do is insanely difficult.
So let's talk about, you just brought up a term that I love. And granted, I watch way more football now than I used to, but I've always been a huge fan and have watched it. But the term simulated pressure that's a fairly new term, a fairly new, maybe the concepts are, but now you hear it on every broadcast that you watch. And is this a Brian Flores thing that is kind of trickled down into the entire rest of football, or is it something that's been around for a long time and now it's just vogue to say?
In the NFL, it's been around for decades, but there's teams that do it far more and far more effectively. And Brian Flores is one of the best at it, the defensive coordinator in Minnesota. But this has been around for a very long time. We used to, back at the New England Patriots in the early 2000s, they called it the amoeba defense, where all the defensive linemen would stand up and move around, right? And they'd walk the linebackers up. Same kind of idea, right? In that you're just creating a little bit of confusion for the offensive line and the quarterback, and then guys are going to drop into zones. It's been around for a really long time, but it's a trickle down from the NFL into college. And so we're hearing it a lot more. It's nothing new to an NFL quarterback. It's nothing new to, and this is where it's really hard too, is that we talk about it from the quarterback standpoint. Max Unger, who a longtime all-pro center for the Seahawks and for the New Orleans Saints, he said you have 2 seconds as a center when you're walking up to the line of scrimmage to decipher where you're going to set your protection and what the defense is going to do. You have to be right in those 2 seconds. We always hear the term like, where's the mic? You know, the Peyton Manning mic'd up, Tom Brady mic'd up. Mike is 54, Mike's 54. Okay. That is the center of where the formation and the offensive line is going to move their protection or be the point in the run game. So when you have those 2 to 3 seconds to make that decision, you're setting your offensive line. And then the defense is going, oh, you think that?
And now we change.
That's real cute.
Yeah.
And then you have no idea. Mike could be coming. Mike could be 20 yards downfield, dropping into a Tampa 2 and being the deep middle defender. And you're going, well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, those are the hard things to do on the quarterback and the center.
I love it. It's basketball, very similar that way in starting in a possession in zone and switching to man after the first pass or the first cut or vice versa. And it does, you have to have smart teams to be able to execute against that stuff at a high level.
And this is the thing about it. When you watch football, defense trickles down from the NFL, offense trickles up from high school. Because if you look at the iterations, or small college, you look at the zone read, you look at the run and shoot, you look at the air raid. The biggest influences offensively have been to create a mismatch or create an advantage because you have a personnel deficiency. The defenses, they go, okay, NFL, we have the best athletes, the best ways to stop something. Okay, how can we do that? So they meet somewhere in the middle, and now you're seeing simulated pressure work its way down to college football.
Fascinating stuff. All right. We'll talk about all the other games, but you talked about New Orleans next week, but you talked about New Orleans being kind of a madhouse when it gets to that game. But what about a home game at Autzen Stadium? How cool is that for the state of Oregon, for the program, for just everybody that's a football fan here in Oregon? This is going to be wild, and you're going to be standing down there on the sideline as a part of it. How excited are you for that? And I know you've been a part of some great environments there, but this is gonna be pretty cool.
It is. And Saturday, December 20th, they get the late game. It's going to be the 4:30 kickoff, and that is the optimal time, I think, for everyone, right? It's not too late. It's not the Friday game, because there was the kind of the fear that it would be the Friday at 5:00 game, which is really hard for people on the West Coast to get off work and commit to a Friday.
I think the Duck fans might have figured out how to do that.
But here's
but the tailgates aren't as long.
Here's one of the problems with it, though, in that the college football playoff controls all the tickets for those games, and they're spendy. And if you have that call of, all right, Friday, we're going to have to take a full day off of work, and we're going to have to pay whatever it is, $175 a pop to get in the door. All right, that looks a little bit different. And that includes like season ticket holders have to buy their tickets. And, the students are going to be on Christmas break. And we all know this, that a lot of students are not from the state of Oregon. So, having it be a Saturday in the late game, I think benefits Oregon a lot. I think it will be a raucous environment. I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be loud. James Madison is they're one of those group of 5 teams that should we have 2 in? No, we should not. But they're the number 2 defense in the country.
Yeah.
And they've played a Sun Belt schedule. Oregon's favored by, 21 points, and they have the better players. They are better coached. And James Madison's coach is on the way out too. He's going to be the guy at UCLA come next year. It's going to be an unbelievable environment. And then the opportunity to go and play in the Orange Bowl on New Year's Day against Texas Tech. That's going to be a hell of a football game too, if Oregon can get past that James Madison.
Well, we will dive into all of that stuff next week, but fun times. One of the cool things about having controversy around anything, it gives you something to talk about, and sports world is just keeps on giving, man.
It does. And I think that like all of those quarterfinal matchups are going to be great.
Yeah.
And the way the bracket is, it's like there's no bracket of death. Like if you're Georgia or Ohio State, you got to beat the best teams anyways if you're going to get there. And I think it's going to be a really fun next month and a half.
All right. Me too. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it. Can't wait to talk about it next week. All right. Let's talk about the NFL a little bit. Another wild weekend in the NFL. Some pretty tragic injury for the Daniel Jones in Indianapolis. I just felt terrible for that kid, man, kind of what he's gone through. And then to have the success and the team, both personal and team success, to have something like that, just watching how much that hurt him. And I don't mean physically, you could just see the anguish on his face when that happened to him. It just super unfortunate.
And I don't know what is going on. We have so many Achilles
what
injuries
the hell, man,
across all sports. We saw in the MLB postseason, a pitcher hurts his Achilles stepping off the mound.
It's an old man injury. It's supposed to be an old man badminton or pickleball injury.
Yeah, like my stepdad had 3 Achilles playing tennis.
Yeah.
And then it was like, dude, you need to stop playing tennis. But that's what it was. Now we see it baseball, Major League, and then you have NBA, NFL. These Achilles injuries are happening all over the place. And I don't know what it is, but it's crushing to see a guy like Daniel Jones, who put it together this year so well in the first half of the year, especially, and to go down that way and to see the Colts lose. And now you're looking at a season that could be slipping away, because here come the Houston Texans playing really good football in the AFC South, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are atop that division play.
Very quietly. The Green Bay Chicago rivalry seems to be back. And it's hard to have a rivalry when one team just smoking the other team over and over again. Green Bay obviously got it done yesterday, but you could tell by it was frosty weather, but that handshake might have been a bit frostier even than the weather was outside yesterday. And LaFleur says it didn't mean anything. We're just going to play him in 2 weeks. But you know that those kinds of rivalries really mean something. And Green Bay looks to me like they have kind of got their shit together and are playing really, really good football on both sides.
Yeah, I bet Ben Johnson is regretting saying he likes beating Matt LaFleur in his introductory
2
press
times
conference.
a year.
Yikes, because that was everything that Bears fans wanted to hear until yesterday.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that one did mean a little bit more for Green Bay. And look, I'm all for the rivalries being back. And that
I
one
love
should
it.
be a good rivalry. And the fact that both teams are actually good, that just amplifies it all. But look, Christian Watson had an unbelievable game. Jordan Love is doing exactly what they're asking him to do.
Sometimes he looks like he's the best quarterback in the NFL, like on certain plays, right? And then the next throw he makes, you're like, what? Who is that guy? He is either hot or unbelievably cold. It's a pretty remarkable up and down for him.
They need Josh Jacobs because I think he's the special sauce and all that, because Jordan Love throwing for 234 in only 25 attempts, that's where you want him to be, right?
Yeah.
Because he can be really good and really efficient in that. With that number of attempts, you don't need him to be a 300-yard guy. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but I think that Matt LaFleur has found what Jordan Love is, and a lot of that has to do with Josh Jacobs being healthy, and of course Christian Watson being available too, because he's been hurt his entire career.
Another story in the NFL that's really kind of got my attention is the whole Mike Tomlin situation. And you can love or hate Aaron Rodgers based on his 21 years of being in the NFL. And I actually got to meet him sat next to him on an airplane for about 2.5 hours when they asked me that question someday about my interaction with Aaron Rodgers. But his response and the Steelers' response to their coach being talked about after all the things he's accomplished, the kind of person that he seems to be. I've never met Mike Tomlin, but he seems to be, from every single player that's ever played for him, minus maybe Antonio Brown, and all the people around him, just one of the classiest dudes that's ever put on a whistle in football. And to see them kind of come together and have a win like that and be able to talk about it, at least for the week, I felt great for Mike Tomlin. That he was able to answer those critics, and I'm really proud for, not proud, it's not the right word. It was super cool. Aaron Rodgers' response to kind of shut that reporter up about what the future looks like for Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, there's this tough spot that Steelers fans are in that they are good enough to be 500.
It's the death zone of the NFL.
It's so hard to be really damn good there.
Yeah.
And they pulled out another one against the Ravens, where now it's nut up or shut up time for the Baltimore Ravens. And this season has kind of been topsy-turvy for them. But to see Rodgers, to your point of backing his coach, Rodgers gets a lot of flack.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it to himself.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
And I think on purpose.
Yeah.
I think
if you ask his family, yeah, he probably, they would say he does it on purpose.
He's
too.
Not a dumb person. He is an intelligent, articulate dude. And I think everything he does is with a purpose.
But with that, for him to back his head coach, back the direction of the team. Look, this is a Steelers team that they're always going to be in the thick of it. And right now you're looking at them saying, holy crap, they're going to win that division.
Yeah.
And nobody would have thought that at the beginning of the year. And there's a very, very real possibility that they do. And now getting that win over Baltimore is huge in that division tiebreaker moving forward, because one thing that the NFL loves to do is pit those teams against each other multiple times down the stretch.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a flurry of AFC North games that are going to dictate that season. It's going to come down to the final game of the regular season, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. And I don't think anybody wanted any other way.
Yeah. Devontae Adams finally didn't catch a touchdown pass yesterday, but they have a couple pretty good receivers on that roster. Puka Nacua is crazy. That's the first time he's had more than one touchdown in a game with the early success he's had in his career. But after a hiccup the week before, they were back to looking like they're probably, as of today, the best team in football. I mean, they are just a complete football team, and they look like the most complete football team to me in the NFL on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, playing the Cardinals will do that to you, and they'll make you look really, really dang good. But they got back on the right track, and look, they've got so much balance. And Sean McVay with that roster, and now the bevy of tight ends that he has to use, and seeing how much of that 12 and 13 personnel, whether they have one back and two tight ends or one back and three tight ends, that allows you to get the receivers that much more open because more guys are committed to the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And nobody is better than Sean McVay at finding weaknesses and exploiting them. And to have Devontae Adams find the fountain of youth. And I think it's really important to
You think it's the Taco Bell?
I think it is to limit his snaps. That Baja Blast is really
oh boy, it helps.
But I think that having so many snaps where Devontae Adams doesn't have to be on the field.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah. Limiting
his workload in games like that are huge for him. And to have a guy like Puka Nacua, holy crap, he is so damn good.
He's unbelievable. He's a 4th or 5th round draft pick too, right? Like it's proof that position can come from anywhere in the draft and be a success.
Yeah, 177th overall, I think he was, and that's a useful guy to have on your side.
Useful is the right term. I don't know if it's an end of an era, but you and I both a few weeks ago wouldn't have been surprised if the Chiefs were winning the Super Bowl. And I still, I don't know if it's just the power of Patrick Mahomes or the fact that you're in 5 out of 6 Super Bowls, but I still think if they made it to the playoffs, they might have a chance to win the damn thing. But it is going to be super difficult for them to navigate getting back to the playoffs now after that loss last night against what is an unbelievably fast and athletic and well-coached Texas defense.
The Texans have been so frustrating to watch because you can see how good they can be.
Man. And they're still young.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. And they're always banged up, perennially banged up. But looking at the way that the Chiefs had, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if they won their last 6 games and then they've lost 2 to start that 6-game run, and they lose on Thanksgiving to the Cowboys. They get a little extra time and they lose to the Texans. They've had a double-digit deficit against every team with a winning record this year.
They've had terrible luck injury-wise, right? They're just a complete overhaul of their offensive line throughout the season. They're missing 3 starters last night. And then on the first offensive play of the game, they lose the guy that's starting at left tackle. And it's just amazing when the injuries start happening, how they just, for teams like that, it's a cycle. I went through it in the basketball world. When it happens, it's like an avalanche sometimes, and you just can't get away from it.
Injury luck is very real.
Yeah.
And they have been very lucky with their injuries, whether it's guys that leave their lineup and are able to come back at the most important times of the year, or it is just staying healthy over the course of, 17-game regular season and then postseason run. That's really hard. And I don't think we give that enough credit or credence when we talk about dynasties and sustainability of teams being good every single year. I mean, we were just talking about the Rams. Look at the Rams are a great example of this. Stafford's shoulder, Puka Nacua's injury last year. And everybody's like, oh, look, where'd the Rams come from? Well, a lot of those guys were on the team last year, and they're just healthy this year, right? For the Chiefs, it's kind of snowballing, and it tells you how good Mahomes is that they're still in a lot of these games. His receivers did him no favors.
No
dropping
favors
the ball
last
left and
night.
right.
No.
And his coach didn't do him any favors going for it on 4th and 1 on his own 31-yard line.
Yeah.
Now, that's who they are. That's their DNA. They're going to be aggressive. And if they get it, nobody's talking about it. And everybody's just like, damn, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Well, you got to read the room a little bit and understand all of those offensive line injuries that you just discussed. Yeah, you probably shouldn't go for it on that 4th down in a 1-score game.
Yeah. Tough night. You know what's great, though? Both in college football now has done a great job of this, and the NFL has been working at this for a long time. I think I saw somewhere that there's still 23 of the 32 NFL teams that, as they say, are in the hunt or firmly in the playoffs, giving hope, which is what everybody wants this time of year, right? Is hope for something so that those games continue to mean something. You just don't want that huge disparity between the top and the bottom. And there's fan bases all over the country still that are wildly engaged in their team's hopeful success going forward to get into those playoffs. It is going to be a blast to watch.
Yeah, and I still have no idea who's good. I don't.
They're all good.
I don't know who is good. I don't know who is bad. This is the most wide open year that I can remember in the NFL because, I mean, we were just talking about how good the Rams are. They lost to the Panthers a week earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Like anything can happen, and we don't have the juggernaut that you believe in wholeheartedly. Like New England and Denver are both 11-2. I do not believe that either one of those teams are Super Bowl teams. I don't know about the 10-3 Rams or the 10-3 Seahawks either. I don't know who the best teams are in the NFL. And that's the scary part, is that if Philly can just be steady as she goes and make it, they have that pedigree. They know what it's like to churn out playoff wins. Kansas City is the same thing. If they find a way to backdoor their way in, I wouldn't want to play them.
No.
Because they know how to win when it comes playoff time and when the rubber meets the road. That's the most critical part of being a NFL team is, all right, you made it through the 17-week gauntlet of your regular season. Okay, now go and ratchet it up a notch and go win 4 more.
Well, you talked about the Panthers beating the Rams, and the Browns early in the season beat a really good team too. I can't remember who it was, but the thing that's so different between college football and the NFL, in my opinion, is why you've got 12-0 teams and 11-1 teams every year in college football, is some of those teams have NFL players on them.
Yeah,
in the NFL, everybody has NFL players on them, right?
All
like
there for
they're all NFL quality players, and on any given Sunday, those NFL players can stand up and get a win, and it just makes it so much fun to watch.
Well, I mean, in the game that I think you're talking about, Cleveland beating Green Bay.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And you go,
how?
Why?
How?
The Saints beating the Buccaneers.
Yes,
yesterday.
yeah.
You're going, that team is terrible. What is happening here?
They have NFL players on that team.
Styles make fights, matchups matter, and they are NFL teams as well.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's going to be fun to watch. I'm going to transition to a place that I don't know if you know I'm going to go here. We're going to talk about the NBA for a bit here, and not in a way that, about a team, but I want to talk about LeBron James for a second. LeBron had, of all of his records that he's going to walk away with, the consistency of being a double-digit scorer, and I don't know what the number is, but it's an insane number. And his record got stopped on a play where he could have taken the last shot and made an assist to a guy that won the game, right? And then the next game comes out and drops 29 to say, you know what, I'm still around. I've never been a huge LeBron fan, but I've never understood the hatred for the guy. And I know he's made some, the decision, all that stuff. But what we've watched over his career is truly remarkable. The sustainability and still being one of the best players in the NBA at his age and that many seasons into the league.
I don't get it. I don't know how he can function the way he does at almost 41 years old. He turns 41 this month.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. And I saw people discrediting the streak of 10-point games and saying, well, I mean, there was a playoff game in 2011 that he didn't score. This is a regular season game. Okay. Well, then go from that game in 2011 to today.
Yeah, it's only 14 years.
And it's 14 years, and he's, oh, by the way, played an additional season in playoff games
and the Olympics
in that time. Like, and he still scored double digits in all of those games. So, okay, we can discredit that. What he has done is, it's jaw-dropping.
It's mind-boggling. And I'm a Michael Jordan guy. No one's ever going to tell me that Michael Jordan wasn't the greatest player of all time. It's one of those things. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, even. I felt fortunate to be alive to get to watch those guys play, right? And I thought MJ, and I still believe, is the greatest competitor, in addition to being the greatest player that ever lived. But you can say that, but also have a deep respect for what LeBron has done for the game. What he's done outside of the game is probably even more remarkable with all of his foundations. But just to sustain that level of excellence, it's hard to score 10 points in one game in the NBA. To do that, what was it? I don't know, 1,700 straight times or it's some crazy number. is absolutely insane.
It is. And the fact that you don't hear the worst thing he's done in his career is the decision,
Yeah.
which gave millions of dollars to the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
He's stayed out of trouble.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything. Like, he obviously is not reading The Godfather, or he is the slowest reader of all time because he's been on that book for his entire career. But he is a guy that he stays out of trouble. He stays in the limelight for the right ways. I mean, I'm not the biggest LeBron guy in the world, but I can't knock him.
Yeah.
Because you just sit there and he's 16 years old. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. We'd have a lot of thoughts about ourselves and hold ourselves in high regard too. If, everybody was calling you the chosen one.
Yeah.
Getting it tattooed on your back, that's a choice. But at the same time, he's lived up to it on the court and off the court. It's been incredible what he's done in his career.
Yeah. And I think anytime you have an athlete of that caliber, unless you're just the rival team that has to hate him, at some point in time, you have to sit back and admire and respect the sustained excellence, and it's going to go away eventually, right? He's going to be gone. And I think giving him his props as one of the greatest human beings to ever dribble and shoot a basketball is something that is well deserved.
Yeah. And I think that anybody that criticizes him for jumping teams, like, they're probably the same people that have quit a job saying this place sucks. That's what he did in Cleveland the first time. It's like, dude, you guys are not doing nearly enough to help me win. Bye. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And then what did he do? He went to Miami, won some championships, and then Cleveland got their act together, and then he brought a title back to Cleveland once they got their act together.
Yeah.
Then he goes to LA. Yeah, sorry, twilight of his career. You guys were done with him too. It's fine. He goes to LA, and all is well in the world. I don't care that he jumped teams. I'm not going to punish him for doing that. Look, Michael Jordan, he may have done the same thing if they didn't make a champion around him as well.
100%. Well, that's enough NBA and LeBron talk for today, but I just thought it was such a remarkable stat.
It is.
And the way that it ended, and then what he did the next night is so LeBron, is so superstar, is so I'm a badass, and I'm not going anywhere quite yet. I just want you to know that.
There is something, though, that the game before the streak ended, he was chasing points at the end to keep it alive.
Yeah.
And it was in smaller circles because it wasn't like a big deal because the streak didn't end.
Yeah.
But people were like, wait, his team, like, he was costing his team at the end there, trying to keep that streak alive. Well, guess what he ended up doing? He ended up ending the streak the next day, read the room, was like, all right, fine. Maybe it's time. And the streak ended.
Good stuff. All right. Let's move to the last topic of the day here. The Baseball Hall of Fame. Our good friend and producer, Jason Cardona, big Dale Murphy fan, not getting in again. And then Clemens and Bonds not getting in. I have some pretty deep thoughts about this in that era, having been a kid watching it, and kid, I was in my 20s. I was a kid, but the watching that whole Sosa, Clemens, McGuire saga as it happened. What are your thoughts on the Hall of Fame and how they go about it and those guys not getting in?
Yeah, the Veterans Committee is it's one that I think is good, and baseball needs it for those guys to get in and get their opportunities and their chances. But Jeff Kent getting in, great, good for him. He was an MVP. He was really good. The fact that Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds aren't in, I think this guy should be in.
It's to me the biggest level of hypocrisy of that there is.
Yeah.
Like that era, every single person was doing it. They never tested positive. That didn't mean they weren't doing it. But the idea that we just lost Dusty Hara.
Yeah. My computer just died.
Oh,
yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep talking about this.
Yeah.
The idea that he is the Bonds and Clemens aren't in, and the saga that they've been through to try to get in, I just don't know that I agree with it. And the level of hypocrisy and the way that the voters think about this is it's just not right to me.
No, I don't think so either. Those you can't tell the story of baseball without Roger Clemens or Barry Bonds, and their impacts on the game were tremendous. I agree with you. There's guys that were throwing Barry Bonds pitches that were juiced up. Well, Roger Clemens maybe being one of them.
Maybe.
And then, guys that were hitting too. I mean, it was a two-way street during that era. I think that both those guys should be in, but Dale Murphy should be in as well.
100%. And give that case. You did a great job before we started shooting this.
Dale Murphy is, and this is not just because he's the local guy, he's Portland born and raised.
Wilson High School.
Wilson High. He is a guy that he did everything the right way during his entire career. His teammates loved him. He was a phenomenal player as well. He's a back-to-back MVP in 82 and 83. 84 and 85, he led the NL in home runs. Okay. So his non-MVP years, he led the league in home runs. Then he has an incredible career that finishes up in back-to-back MVPs and leading the league in home runs in separate years. That in and of itself should get you into the Hall of Fame. Numbers retired by the Atlanta Braves. Last I checked, pretty significant organization, had some really damn good players. Okay. He is still not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And for the life of me, I don't know why. And when you compare him.
Why are they saying why? What is the,
I don't know.
Voters don't have any accountability to why they do or don't, right?
I don't know. But two back-to-back years, they said, this guy's the best player in baseball. And that should be enough.
Yeah.
And then you take the fact that he did everything right off the field as well. If you're going to hold guys out of the Hall for, in your opinion, not being good guys on the field, off the field, like
great point,
Bonds
man.
and Clemens.
Great point.
Maybe you should give the nod to the guy who was also an elite player who did all of the right things. His teammates loved him. The community loved him. Meanwhile, Jeff Kent, he should be a Hall of Famer. He was an MVP, but his teammates tried to kick his ass in the dugout. He was notably a guy who was hard to get along with. There's a video of it.
I love baseball, man. Like the idea that can happen in a dugout and we can all watch 162 games. You're going to get pissed every now and again.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But you know who never had that happen? Dale Murphy.
Yeah.
Who was a back-to-back MVP, led the league in home runs, had one of the best posters of all time. The Nike Electric Factory.
Yes.
That poster was elite. For that alone, he should be in the Hall of Fame. But his career backed it up as well.
It's good stuff. Well, hopefully the Hall gets it right. He gets at least one more shot to go in, right? Did you say
2028?
2028. And is that his last chance? Or was there another?
I think you just have a gap.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Well, we're rooting for you, Dale.
I am.
And Jason Cardona is really rooting for you, especially a tough weekend for him being a Bears fan, a Notre Dame fan, and Dale Murphy not getting into the Hall of Fame. It was his favorite baseball player of all time. I have deep empathy for Jason. All right, man. Well, this is good stuff. What question do you have for me today?
All right, because I went through the process, and I'm still going through the process of I was rear-ended and my car got totaled, and so I had to buy a new car over the weekend, and I'm going through the insurance, and that is just a pain in the ass.
Yes.
Even though it's not your fault.
Yes.
Like everything, like that car had plenty of good miles on it.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
What is the most infuriating customer service process for you? Because purchasing the vehicle was okay. The insurance is a bad one, but I also go to, is it worse than airlines, cable providers, cell phone companies?
Cable
like
providers
there's a lot of
a
them.
Great one. Cable provider. I've been rear-ended as well when my wife was pregnant with our first kid about a month before she was supposed to give birth. And that was a horrible process with the insurance company after that. But I think any customer service experience that doesn't immediately provide me a human, I have very, very difficult time with. And my family will know when that happens because I'm just yelling at the phone, customer service representative, because at the end, it's going to say, if you get 10 minutes into it, if you want to speak to somebody, just hold on. And I think if you yell at the phone enough times, eventually they're going to get you there quicker.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have any empirical data to back that up, but I can tell you that I've done it over and over again.
Yelling is not affecting the AI that is operating.
You don't
that
think
system.
they're my tone of voice, my
No.
coach voice coming out over the phone to
No.
the AI on the other end is not helping the matter?
No, I don't think that computer cares. But that is one of the worst.
I mean, the cable company, I think I won't say which one, but I recently switched from a cable company that I'd been with for 20 years. I'm now from that cable company to YouTube TV. And one of the reasons for it was two things. They just kept increasing my bill every single month without talking to me about it. And number two, I could never talk to anybody.
Yep.
You just want to talk to a human. Just give me a human.
Yeah, it doesn't make it easier. They're not making it easier. And there's no way that anybody can tell me otherwise that, no, this is something that makes it easier for the customer.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. You're just making it harder for everybody.
Yeah. Life is hard enough. Let us talk to a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That should be a slogan for one of these companies. Life is hard enough. We're going to let you talk to a human.
Bingo.
All right. Good stuff. Dusty, thank you so much for doing this. Looking forward to the weeks of football ahead. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, Dusty's computer died, so we only got about 50 minutes of his beautiful face. The rest of the time, it's just your wonderful voice.
Yeah. Well, I was glad to be there for 50.
Have a great rest of your week, man. Talk soon.
You too.